It's indeed nice to come back and address you all again. And what we so far did was evolution of business, how it started, what was India's history, and how did we fare. We were one of the topmost countries in the world in terms of trade. Now, we go to the next chapter from here, and this chapter basically is known as forms of business organization. Okay? What are the different forms of business organization? Is very important, especially in the Indian context. Okay? We have a sole proprietorship where there is a single person. This is a slight variation from the others, that is the joint Hindu family business. It's basically in the Hindu families. We have partnership, we have cooperative societies, and we have joint stock companies. Okay, so we'll be dealing with the different forms of organization. How is it useful in different contexts? Okay, so first and foremost, let's come to sole proprietorship. Okay, sole proprietorship is the most common form of business anywhere because it is easy to start, and the very word soul means it is a single person. It is a single person. So what is it? It's the oldest, it's the simplest, and it's the most popular form of business organization. Okay, and you can start off on a very small scale also. There is no need of you to invest huge capital for this. Okay, so small businesses start off as sole proprietorship. Okay, sole means one. It refers to a form of business organization which is owned, managed, and controlled by an individual, sole, by an individual who is a recipient of all the profits and bearer of all the risks. That means whatever he earns goes to him. If there is any losses, he has to bear all the losses. Okay, so it is owned, managed, and controlled by an individual. The individual bears all the risk and he sees to it that he receives all the profits also. Okay, let's take an example here that the individual is the sole and the only owner of the business, and he is responsible for all the business debts. Okay, so this is a sole proprietor, and he's also known as a sole trader. Okay, and this type of business is where only one person is solely responsible for everything. He'll look after the enterprise, he'll make his own decisions, everything is done by him. Okay, so let's get to one definition by J.L. Hansen. J.L. Hansen tells that sole trader business is a type of business unit where only one person is solely responsible for providing the capital. So there's only one person who's giving the capital and for bearing the risk and for the management of the business. So it is a very, very relevant definition by J.L. Hansen, and he covers the entire aspect of a sole proprietor. Okay, from here, if we have understood the definition, we can go a little bit further, and we'll find out what are the different features or what are the special features of sole proprietorship, and we'll go a little bit slowly. It's better to understand all the points, because when you understand all the points, it's easy for you to distinguish it with the other forms of business organization. Now let us come to the special features of sole proprietorship. Number one, formation of business. Okay, when you form a sole proprietorship, there is no separate legal law as just like the Companies Act or the Cooperative Society Act or the Joint Hindu Family Act. There is no separate act, or even the Indian Partnership Act. You can start your business anywhere, any place. Okay, so even a chana wala, even a pan wala, even the person who's selling the goods on the road, he is a sole proprietor because he is doing business on his own. Okay, even a shopkeeper might be a sole proprietor. Okay, so the formation is a very easy formation. There is no requirement of any particular law or legal formalities. Okay, now we come to the second point in the features of sole proprietorship. The second form of the feature of sole proprietorship is the liability. The liability here is unlimited. What do we mean by the term unlimited liability? When we talk about the term unlimited liability, means if there are any losses in the business, the owner or the sole proprietor will have to make good the loss. He'll have to sell off his private property and see to it that whatever debts have to be paid by him to the others will have to be paid by him. Okay, so his liability is unlimited. Okay, he has to pay whatever his dues are there. Okay, let's come to the third feature. The third feature is that he is the sole risk bearer. Okay, what do you mean by the word sole risk bearer? Means all the losses he has to bear, all the risk he has to bear. Okay, so there is no escaping, because he is the person who started the business. He is the person who has thought for himself. He is the person who's ventured into this business. So he is the sole risk bearer. Okay, so what are the points which we covered so far? First of all, the formation of the business. Second is the liability, which is unlimited. And the third is he is the sole risk bearer. Let's come to point number 4. Point number 4 tells he is the only recipient of profit. That means whatever profits are earned by him will go to him only. He is not going to share the profits with anyone. Unlike a partnership there where they have to divide the profits amongst the partners in a particular ratio, whichever is fixed by them. So he is the only recipient of profit. He gets all the profits for himself. Okay, that was point number 4. Now we come to point number 5. Point number 5 is control. Okay, what he does is that he controls the entire business. Okay, he looks after it, he takes the decisions, he knows what to purchase, he knows what to sell, he knows what rate to buy, he knows what rate to sell. So he has got complete control over the business. Okay, and that's why he's known as a sole proprietor. Coming to point number 6 is that no separate entity. The sole proprietor and the sole proprietor firm are the same thing. They go hand in hand. There is no escaping, so there is no separate entity. Okay, this was point number 6 for you. Coming to point number 7, business continuity. We are not guaranteeing that the business will go on, because anything happens to the sole proprietor, the business closes along with him. Probably his legal hires or legal representatives might conduct the business, but they will be conducting it in their name. Okay, so the business continuity, there is no guarantee that it is going to stretch for a long period of time. Okay, coming to the closure of the business, there is no specific legal formalities. Okay, just like the starting, there are no legal formalities. Even when you close down this particular business, there is no legal formalities at all. Okay, so we have studied the features, we have studied the characteristics of a sole proprietorship. Now let us understand the advantages. Why is it good to have a sole proprietorship firm? Okay, first of all, the decision making is quick. There is only one person, he thinks for himself, he takes the decisions on the spot. So the decisions which are there are quick and they do not require any consultation with anyone. Okay, fine. So the decision making is quick and he takes his own decisions. Point number 2, there is the information whichever he has got is confidential. He will maintain the information within himself. Okay, he has thought for himself, he will take the decision for himself. So there is no question, unlike a joint stock company where there are so many people together, there is a good chance of information being leaked outside. But here, he is the only person, so there is no question of any information going out. Okay, I come to point number 3. Point number 3 tells there is a direct incentive. What is the meaning of direct incentive? Direct incentive basically means that if he works hard, if he is innovative, he is creative, he is going to earn more profits. So the longer time he spends with his business, the more profits he's going to earn. Okay, so there is direct incentive for him. If he works hard, he is going to get more profits. Okay, so this is the advantage number 3. Advantage number 4 tells that it's a sense of achievement. I have started a small business on my own. I have invested X amount. That X amount has grown 10 times more or 20 times more. For me, it's a sense of achievement because I have put in my efforts, I have taken my own decisions, and I have reaped the profits. Okay, so it's a big sense of achievement, and this is possible in a sole proprietorship. Okay, when we talk about this form of business, sole proprietorship, he has got personal relationship with the stakeholders, the customers who come to him, the other people, all the people who are interested in his business. He has got personal contact, and he knows the likes and dislikes of each of his customers, and they are very happy doing business with him. Okay, so there is personal relationship with the stakeholders. And also, when we discussed in the characteristics, that was the first point and the last point, it is easy to form and it is easy to close. There is no legal formalities required at all. So it is easy to form and easy to close. Okay, these are the advantages of a sole proprietorship. Okay, now I'll just have a quick recap about the advantages of sole proprietorship. Number 1, quick decision making. It's done at once. The information whichever is there is confidential, so he keeps the information with himself. There is direct incentives. The more hard work he puts, the more rewards he will be reaping. There is a sense of achievement because he will feel that he has put in his best efforts and he is getting the rewards for that. Okay. Also, there is personal relationship with the stakeholders, the customers, the other people, the suppliers, the creditors, the debtors. He's got personal relationship and he knows their likes and dislikes very well. And coming to the last point of advantage, it's easy to form and it's easy to close. So there is ease of formation and closure. So these are the advantages of sole proprietorship. Okay, we cannot guarantee that these advantages are going to work well. There are some disadvantages, there are some limitations, there are some demerits also. Okay, so let us understand the limitations of a sole proprietorship. Number 1, he's a single person. Imagine a single person, how much capital can he pool? Okay, he can pool a limited amount of capital. So the resources which he's got is very limited. Okay, unlike a partnership firm where there are 2 or more people who are conducting business, there can be 10, there can be 20 or even 50 under the Indian Companies Act. Okay, so the capital is limited, the resources are limited, so he has that drawback in terms of resources, which he has to plan things in a very judicious manner. Also, the life of the business depends upon him. Okay, so there is limited life of business and the business cannot continue for a long period of time. The third point of limitation is very evident. The liability is unlimited. So whatever happens in the business, whatever losses happen in the business has to be borne by him. Okay, so the liability whichever is there is unlimited liability. I come to point number 4 in the limitations. Point number 4 in the limitation tells there is limited managerial ability. Now a sole proprietor has to look after every possible thing. Okay, when he has to look at every possible thing, there will be drawbacks. Either he'll be good at one thing or he'll be good at another thing. Okay, so the managerial abilities will be taken for a toss because he has to focus on many things. He has to focus on capital, he has to focus on procurement of the goods, he has to focus on selling the goods. Okay, so it goes on and on and on. Okay, So this was sole proprietorship for you. From here, we will go to the next forms of business for you. Okay, so from sole proprietorship, we go to partnership accounts. Okay, not partnership accounts, but partnership form of business organization. And this is a slightly upgraded version of a sole proprietorship. Whatever limitations were there in sole proprietorship would be solved by a partnership form of business organization. Okay, so the very word partner means it is more than one person. Okay, so it is two or more individuals who come together, they agree and they do certain business. Now, if you generally discuss, it's good for them also, because the amount of capital which they'll be pooling is much more. The abilities can be also utilized properly. One partner might be good in marketing, the other partner might be good in finance. So you know, the abilities, the managerial abilities are also looked after properly, and in terms of absence of one partner, the other partner can look over the business for a short period of time. So let's come to what is partnership all about. It is an association of two or more persons or individuals who agree to pursue business activity for a common objectives. Okay, now it has to be a common objective and it has to be a common legal objective. Now they are getting together for some murder or something, that is not partnership, or they are doing some illegal activity, those are not partnership. It has to be legal, it has to be within the eyes of the law. Okay, and what do? They provide capital investment. They pool in their specialized skill. So I might be a partner in a firm, I might be good at marketing, my other partner might be good at finance, my third partner might be good at managerial abilities. So what is happening? We are combining and we are pooling our specialized skills, and we agree to share the risk, working with utmost good faith. So you only become partners if you know that person. You don't call out the person from the other side of the road and come, let's be partners, let's start business. That's not possible. Okay, you should know the person properly. Okay, it could be your cousin, it could be your brother itself, okay, or any other person, your friend, okay, whom you know. So you should know that person, because you have to be when you're doing business, it has to be done in good faith. He has to have confidence in you. You have to have confidence in him. So this is partnership for you. Okay, and let's just do the definition under the Indian Partnership Act of 1932. The Indian Partnership Act of 1932 tells that it is a relation between persons who have agreed to share the profit of the business, carried on by all or any one of them acting for all. Okay, so this definition is very clear. Either you know, there are different types of partners which we shall be doing later in this session, or we'll be doing it in the next session. So there are some partners who are active partners and they conduct the business throughout the day, while as there are certain other partners who are basically redundant. They are sleeping partners and they don't take active part in the business. Okay, so let us now see what are the features of the partnership business. Let us slowly understand each feature properly, because it is very useful for us to compare the different forms of business organizations and find out which one is the best. We can never arrive at which one is the best. It depends upon the relevance, it depends upon the point where they have started the business. Number one, the formation. It is formed under the Indian Partnership Act of 1932. Okay, you can have a written partnership deed, which is a legal document, or you can have an oral one. Always better have a written partnership deed, because it will work well whenever there are disputes. Okay, so the formation is under the Indian Partnership Act of 1932. Now we come to the second feature of partnership business. The second feature is the liability. The liability of a partnership firm is unlimited. It is the same as a sole proprietorship form of business. Here also, if the losses occur, the partners will have to get money from their home and make good the loss. They have to sell their private property and make good the loss. Okay, so the liability in this case is unlimited. It's not that they can conduct it in their whims and fancies. The liability is unlimited. I come to point number 3 after that is risk bearing. Okay. Now risk bearing is basically a particular ratio which they agree to share the profits or the losses. Okay. So risk bearing is basically a predetermined ratio, and if there is no ratio mentioned in the partnership deed, they have to share the profits and losses equally. Otherwise, if it is 3:2 or 4:3 or 1:4 or 2:3 or 5:1, that is upon the agreement of the partners. Okay. Now, I come to point number 4, and point number 4 tells decision making and control. Okay, when we talk about decision making and control, it is basically mutual consent. Okay, the partners agree amongst themselves. Okay, how to take different decisions, because there shouldn't be infights. I told you earlier that this form of business happens in good faith. So there is mutual consent is very much necessary between the partners. The decision making has to be taking place amicably, and it has to be agreed by all the partners. Coming to point number 5 now, continuity. Now this depends upon the partners, okay, whether they want to continue the business or no. If they are doing well and if they are mutually, there is a very good understanding amongst them, the partnership continues. Okay, now let us come to the number of partners. Of course, the minimum is 2, because it has to be more than 1. If it is 1, it is a sole proprietor. So it has to be more than 1, that is 2. In case of banking business, it is 10. In case of other businesses, the minimum is, the maximum is 20. While as in case of the Companies Act, it can be 50 partners. Okay, the limit is 50 partners. So this is the number of partners for you. Okay, then we have got the next characteristics is mutual agency. It's basically a combination of the above points. Mutual means they agree things from themselves. Either they conduct business with the mutual consent of the others, and they take decision with proper consultations. So that is mutual agency for you. Non-transferability of shares. Okay, so there is not, the shares cannot be transferred. It has to be mutually consented, then it is possible. But in general terms, there is no transferability of shares. Okay, and coming back to the registration, yes, of course, it's registered under the Indian Partnership Act of 1932. So these were all the features of partnership business and how it is conducted. Okay, so I hope you've understood most of the features, because the features are very easy, and we need to know the features thoroughly, because we need to compare these features with the sole proprietorship and also the other forms of business like the joint Hindu family, the cooperative societies, and the joint stock companies. So it is a very interesting topic, and here we need to be very aware about what are the things which are going on and what are the things which we can come up to. Okay, so these were the features of partnership business. I hope you've understood the forms of business organization, where we started off with the sole proprietorship, and we understood what are the characteristics, what are the merits, what are the demerits, and then we came to partnership form of business, where we understood what is partnership, and then after understanding what is partnership, we also try to understand what are the features of partnership. Okay, in my next session I shall be touching upon the advantages and disadvantages of partnership, along with the different types of partners and the different types of partnerships. Okay, so I take leave here, and I hope you enjoyed this session of forms of business organization. This is Vishwanath Jatan signing off. Thank you so much.